Hello again everyone, hope you're all having an amazing day. In this video we're going to talk about finding the correct training split for you. Okay, I'm going to try and get through this pretty quickly because it's a long one. I've only got 20 minutes for the video. Okay, before I get into how to work out what training split is going to be best for you and how to know whether or not something is going to be effective, I just want to actually explain what a training split is. So a training split is the routine of your weight training program from Monday all the way through to Sunday. It's basically the plan of attack you're going to get or use to get the most from your training, improve your weak areas, and either focus on building muscle or dropping body fat. Now it's important that you know what your weekly gym routine is, and you need to know what muscle group you're training on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. So not only can you plan ahead, but you can also maximize progress with your training by planning ahead and following an effective training split, allowing your muscles to get adequate recovery, but also allowing you to still work them enough to grow or take shape without having any doubt as to if what you're doing is correct. Now, if you don't have a plan of attack and you have no idea what you're training when you walk into the gym, you will become complacent. And chances are you'll stuff around and you don't actually go there with any purpose, making it very easy to lose motivation. Now, once you lose motivation, most people would stop and give up and say that the gym isn't for them, and I really don't want that to happen to you. So you need to plan ahead, you need to know what you're doing so that you can incorporate it effectively. Now in this video I'm going to cover over some effective training splits that you can incorporate into your own program for you to use, and I'm also going to tell you the pros and cons of each split and what not to do when putting together your own training split. Now, as most of my training videos, and you're probably sick of hearing me say this, but once again, there's no right or wrong when you're putting together a training split. Yes, there's things you need to look out for and take into consideration, but there's several different ways you can go about putting together a training split, and most of them are just good variations of each other and that you can use to mix your training up. Now, the training splits I'm going to cover are training your muscles once per week, twice per week, the push, pull and legs training split, and the rotating training splits, okay? All 4 training splits are correct. I've used all 4 training splits before and they all work really well. Now, as I said, there's no right or wrong. It really just comes down to the individual's personal preference. Now, I recommend you try them all before you make your own decision as to which training split is best for you. Now, when you're training your muscles once per week, you're obviously hitting each major muscle group once and then having 6 full days to recover for that particular muscle. Now, 6 days is a pretty long time to let your muscles recover. So the key to training your muscles once per week is that you full on need to destroy that muscle to the point of physical pain, and you need to break that muscle down literally as much as you can. Now, it's not a short, quick workout. If you're training your muscles once per week, you need to hit that muscle from literally every angle. You need to use all the training variations I've taught you, and you need to full on break those muscle fibers of that particular muscle to an extent that you've probably never trained before. Now, I have mentioned before that you're not actually growing during your workouts. You're growing at home when you're eating and sleeping to recover. So even though you might feel like hitting your muscles once per week is not enough, you still can see very good results from doing this because you're getting maximum recovery, but the key is that you need to make your workouts very intense. Now, another benefit to training your muscles once per week is that when you're trying to drop body fat, you're incorporating good amounts of cardio and you're still allowing your body to recover. Due to the benefits of the 6-day recovery in between hitting your muscles and doing excessive amount of cardio, you'll still be minimizing the chance of overtraining, because you more than likely will never overtrain because it's very hard to do. But hitting your muscles 2 or 3 times per week, plus an hour's cardio each day, plus minimal to no carbohydrates is very, very taxing on the body, and you're going to get very sore. So if you're looking to drop body fat and you're doing a lot of cardio, letting your muscles have that chance to recover properly is not going to do you any harm. Now, the only negative I can think of with hitting your muscles once per week is that you might not be maximizing your progress. And I personally prefer to hit my muscles twice a week. I find that I can still recover very well, and because I'm breaking them down more often, eating a heap of food and getting lots of sleep to recover, I tend to make much better progress hitting them on a more frequent basis, in this case twice a week. Now, however, as I said earlier, there really is no right or wrong. If you're training for a 16-week period, hitting your muscles once per week, in the next 16-week block, you could change it to twice per week just to mix it up, and vice versa. And if you were hitting your muscles twice per week in the next 16-week block, you could go back to hitting your muscles once per week. Both are correct, both will work very well, but everyone responds differently and everyone has their own personal preference. Hitting your muscles 3 times a week is a bit of a risk. I don't really recommend it because you have to literally be eating a heap of food to allow your body to recover. 3 times a week is almost every second day, and for me that's just too often. If you're training as hard as you should be, training the muscle 3 times per week is not the best way to go about it. Now, before I get into training the muscles twice per week, I just want to show you what a split would look like if I was hitting my muscles once a week. Monday arms, Tuesday legs, Wednesday shoulders, Thursday back, Friday chest, and on Saturday I do cardio and abs and then have Sunday off. If you want, you can go back and write that down and try it for yourself. It will definitely work. Now, when you do put your training split together, there's a few things you need to take into consideration. I personally like to keep arms day away from chest and back day. When you're training back, you use a lot of your biceps and your forearms as well. So having a few days of rest in between arms and back is going to be good for recovery for your biceps and forearms. So when you train chest, you also use your shoulders a little bit, mainly your front delts, and then your triceps, probably more so your triceps. So I also like to keep arms and chest a few days apart as well. In the bigger scheme of things like this don't really matter too much. I'm being quite picky about this, but everyone's different, and I could go on all day about small inconsistencies in training splits. I've heard a lot of people say don't train your back and legs near each other as your lower back gets very tight when you're training your legs hard, or don't do cardio and legs near each other as the recovery won't be good, and so on and so on. So I don't really like to take all that into consideration. For me, all I try to focus on is keeping arms away from chest and back. The more you overcomplicate things, the harder it becomes, the more you start to doubt yourself. So just keep it simple, okay? Shoulders and chest together I believe is fine, because if your form's good when you're training chest, you won't be using too much of your front delts. And anyone who can't do a back day after legs, or legs after back, really needs to harden up, because the two muscle groups shouldn't interlink in a workout at all. Now, when you're putting together a training split, hitting your muscles once per week, all you need to focus on is keeping arms away from back and chest, but more importantly than that, make sure you're training very hard. You're getting maximum recovery, training your muscles once per week, so you need to literally rip those muscles apart and use that extended recovery time to your advantage. If you were to move a training to a training split where you were hitting each muscle twice per week, it may look something like this. So Monday back and biceps, Tuesday legs and shoulders, Wednesday chest and triceps, Thursday off or a rest day, Friday back and biceps, Saturday leg and shoulders, and Sunday chest and triceps. Now, once again, if you want, you can go back and write that down, because that will definitely work well. This is just an example. There's probably 5 or 6 different ways you can put these together, but this time we're incorporating back and biceps together and chest and triceps together, so that we're allowing maximum recovery for those muscle groups. Because we're hitting the muscles more frequently, if you were to train chest one day and triceps the next day, the recovery time for your triceps would basically be every second day, and that's just too often. Even if you're training the muscle indirectly, you'll not be maximizing progress because the muscle's being trained too frequently. The benefits of hitting your muscles twice a week is that you're breaking them down more frequently, which means they need to build back bigger and stronger on a more regular basis, which is obviously going to lead to more growth if you're recovering properly. So when you're training your muscles twice a week, you still need to train very hard to break them down, but more importantly in this case is the amount of food that you're eating. If your muscles aren't getting the rest and the nutrition to recover, they just won't grow, okay? You have to make sure you're eating and resting to recover when hitting those muscles twice a week, because if the recovery isn't there and your muscles are staying broken down, there just won't be any progress, okay? So as you can see, there are benefits to training your muscles once per week. There's benefits to training your muscles twice per week. Neither's better than the other. They're both correct. They both work, and I recommend that you try them both to see which one works best for you. The third training split I want to cover is called push-pull and legs training split. Now, the push-pull leg split is a weight training schedule that revolves around splitting the body up into 3 groups: upper body pushing muscles, upper body pulling muscles, and your legs, okay? Each group is then trained separately on its own workout day. So on the push day, you train all of the upper body muscles that are involved in pushing exercises. So a push exercise is any exercise where you're pushing the weight up or down or away from the body, okay? This includes your chest, shoulders, and your triceps. On the pull workout day, you train all of the upper body muscles that are involved in pulling exercises. So a pull exercise is an exercise where you're either pulling the weight up, down, or towards your body. So this primarily includes back, biceps, and possibly traps. On the legs workout day, you would train the entire lower body. This includes your quads, hamstrings, and calves. I haven't really mentioned abs in these training splits, but doing abs twice a week for me is a given. You always hit your abs twice a week, regardless of what training split you're doing. So with the push-pull legs, you would do that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then repeat, and have the Sunday off. So push Monday, pull Tuesday, legs Wednesday, and then repeat, then have the Sunday off. Again, if you'd like, I would recommend you go back and listen again and write all these splits down, because it's very good stuff for you to learn, okay? The main purpose and benefit of splitting the body up, all the muscle groups up this way, is that the related muscle groups are being trained together in the same workout, similar to what the training your muscles twice per week would look like, but once again, you're just grouping them a little bit different. Is one better than the other? No, definitely not. They're both good, they both work, and they're just two different training splits that you can use so your body doesn't get used to the same thing, also that you don't get bored. They're all correct, okay? The push-pull legs basically have the same pros and cons, hitting your muscles twice per week, but it has a little more structure. I've used both got me the same results. I enjoyed both as much as the other, and I recommend that you try them both as well, because you might prefer one over the other, or you might love them both and you just alternate. The reason I say work both is that both are good, because the main thing I focus on my workouts, and I've said this 100 times, is your training intensity. There should never ever be a bad workout. You should go in there, destroy your muscles, train like an animal, eat and sleep to recover. It's very simple and you don't need to overcomplicate it, okay? The same principle applies to all training splits, but the key to seeing results is always going to be the intensity of your workouts. The last training split I'm going to cover is called a rotating training split. And personally, this has probably been my split of preference, not so much now, but basically from when I was, say, 18 to 22, when I was fully obsessed with my training, and that was the only thing that mattered in my life. Don't get me wrong, I still love my training, but I'm a lot more career and business driven now. I did a 5-day split for literally 3 or 4 years straight, because I just loved it so much and it fitted perfectly into my life. When I was 18 years old, I was only about 78 kilos, but when I was 22, I got up to about 104. So I put on a whole heap of size using this, and I really did think my 5-day rotating split was the key to me seeing those kind of results. Now, looking back at it though, and knowing what I do now, I would have made just as good progress using either of these training splits, because it really came down to the food and my training intensity that was getting me the results, not so much the training splits. So what a rotating 5-day split is a split where you train each muscle group by itself consecutively with no scheduled rest days in between. The reason I used to have no scheduled rest days is because at this point in my life, I was doing sessions from 7 till 10 a.m, then working full-time in a supplement store from 10:30 to 6:30, then going back into the gym and doing more PT sessions from 7 p.m. until the gym closed at 10. That was my 6 days per week for years and years. So the reason I've never scheduled a rest day was because obviously having your day so full on and so busy all the time, if something went wrong, I wouldn't be able to make it to the gym. So by not scheduling a rest day, when something does go wrong or you can't get into the gym, you just make that day your rest day and pick up where you left off. And then you just can't do that when you have a Monday through to Sunday training split, because it just doesn't work. Just because you have no scheduled rest days doesn't mean that you can make up reasons not to go to the gym. This is not a split where you can make excuses just for the sake of it. You need to get your workouts done. There must be a really good reason for you not to be able to make the gym. Laziness just is not an excuse, okay? So what the 5-day rotating split looked like for me was day 1 arms, day 2 legs, day 3 back and abs, day 4 chest, then day 5 I'd do my shoulders and abs, okay? Then I'd repeat the cycle. So after I completed day 5, I'd start back on day 1 with no rest days in between, regardless of what day that fell on. Now, whenever something came up or I wasn't able to make it to the gym, I'd just throw in a rest day and continue on with my training, whatever day I was up to in my training split. If you're having 4 rest days in between muscle groups, which is more than enough time to recover, you should schedule your rest days as you feel you need to, or just as something comes up. Once again, this training split worked very well for me. I really enjoyed it, but some people like more of a structured routine and to have everything properly scheduled. There's no right or wrong. All 4 training splits work. They all have their pros and cons, and they're basically just different variations of each other to keep your training interesting. I mentioned in my video of training variations but I want to go over and cover it again because I want to cement this into your brain. Okay, you don't need to change your training split very often at all to stop your body from getting used to the same thing. I want you to try all 4 training splits, do them all properly for 16 weeks and see which one you enjoy the most. So if you fall in love with one training split and it's working amazing for you, you're enjoying it, it fits into your life perfectly, and you don't want to change it, then you just don't have to. Okay, just like I did with my 5-day rotating split for years on end. I put on 26 kilograms of muscle in 4 years using the exact same training split throughout. You do not need to change your training split if you don't want to. The way you stop your body from getting used to the same thing is by using those different training variations. I want you to watch all of my 1-hour workout videos with the voiceovers and you'll understand properly. Okay, so even though my routine of how I trained my muscles was exactly the same, no actual 2 workouts were ever the same because of the variations that I would use in my training. Some days you go heavy, some light, some days you use drop sets, supersets, negatives, pause reps. It really doesn't matter. It's so easy to mix up the way you train. Changing your training split does keep your training exciting. There's nothing wrong with changing your training split on a regular basis, but if you do like to do the same thing and you are a creature of routine or habit, just like I am, then doing the same split consecutively will work just fine. Doing the same workouts consecutively will not. You must make your workouts as hard as possible every single session. You need to use multiple variations and different training every session, but you do not need to change your training split. It comes down to each individual workout, because please don't forget that it's very important and valuable information that you can use. Okay, so again, I want you to try all 4 training splits, kill your workouts in all 4 training splits, and find what works best for you. If you want to keep doing the same thing, then that's fine, just do it. If you want to mix up your training split all the time, that's fine, just do it. The key to stopping your body from getting used to the same thing and slowing down your progress is to make each individual workout harder, and then the last, and constantly using different training variations than the last exercise or the last workout, not by changing your training split. Okay, that was a lot in one video. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. Feel free to go back and take some notes so it's easy to remember, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.